Okay, guys, we're back talking about trials and tribulations and tests that God takes us through, or maybe we put ourselves through ourselves. But I want to continue to say to you today that, as we said yesterday, the second greatest healing agent for you at a time of trials is the community of the church. You can't trust everybody, but you better find somebody. And when you share that, the body then becomes what the body is meant to do. The body of Christ, as in a human body, begins to heal you because you're a part of it too. I want to just throw out just a little bit of a warning, and if the cap fits, wear this thing. But you know, the thing about telling our stories, as much as we need to tell it to somebody who we can trust, someone who's not going to go out there and trash our reputation or spill the beans to people that are inappropriate and not needing to know. And the fact is that we just need to tell our story as few times as we can, but to as few people as we can. I find it interesting. You know, I come from a bit of a military background, and I understand the power of a war story, of how war stories can grow and can escalate. You're not going to hear me tell many war stories because I can't trust myself. I just know that I could make this sound a whole lot more bigger than what it really was. And a war story is something that you tell once, and because it had a great effect and you enjoyed telling it, you tell it again. But this time you add a few extra details that may just be a slight exaggeration of the truth. And then after you've told the story 50 times, for goodness sake, you know, the story is like crazy. And you find yourself to be in a position where you are categorically lying, because exaggeration is a form of lying. And if you exaggerate by telling your story too many times, every time it gets bigger, like the war story, first it was me against 5, and then it was me against 10. Actually, you know what, next time, no, I think it was about 15 guys that I had to take on, and then by the end of it, telling it 100 times, it's you against 1,000, you know, and you're Rambo, you know, and it's just, it's ridiculous. The proneness of our human nature is toward exaggeration, sometimes for effect. I want to warn you against that, because the tragedy is, and I see this so many times, is the story that was once small and becomes exaggerated too many times. You begin to believe your own story. You begin to believe that it really was you against 100 because you told the story so many times. Be warned, as you begin to tell the story so many times, you begin to believe your own lie. Now, nobody wants to get in that position, but there are lots of people in it. So when you're sharing your trial or the test that you're going through with a group of people who you believe you can trust, be honest about it. There's a form of counseling therapy that I think is great. It's called minimization, where you'll go into a counselor and you'll spill your guts and you'll tell the story. And then a good counselor will say to you, well, now tell me the truth. Was it really that bad? Was it really that big a deal? Was it really that incredible? And if you're honest enough, very often there are times when you say, well, actually, I'm being honest. No, it wasn't quite like that. And when you tell the story as it really was, that's when you begin to tell the truth. The tragedy of us beginning to believe our own lies is a horrible thing. And every time you tell a story, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's not cool. That's not right. It's not good for you. And it's not good for the people who attend to you. So beware that if you tell your story, like we said yesterday, be in community, share your story, but not with everybody, please. Not with everybody. Every time you sit down at a coffee shop, every time you go to somebody's house, every time you're in the car park, every time you're in a passageway talk, the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you are categorically not just exaggerating anymore. You're in the realm of real lies. So think about that in the context of some of the stories that you may have told. I just think of people who I explained just now, who tell war stories. Very often I'm looking cynically. I look at 45-degree angle at some of these stories because I think I know that there's a gross amount of exaggeration. And the tragedy is we believe it. And that's awful. So think about that. Find community. Be careful who you talk to in the community. Talk to somebody, but just don't tell your story 1,000 times to too many people. Now, I'm going to tell you, that's practical advice. It could keep you out of a lot of harm, a lot of trouble, and it protects your mind as well. Think about that. Have a good day, people. We love you lots, man. See you soon. Bye.